Welcome to Now and Forever, a series of 10-minute reflections on good news spirituality. Sponsored by the Charles and Catherine Free Family Foundation, brought to you from Watertown, New York, Our Lady of Savior Kennard Parish. And like that, I'm confused, right?
You know where you are.
Good to be with you, Pat and Vicki. Yeah, I know where I'm at. But this is, I was actually thinking of what we were talking about before we turned the camera on, and about culture. We just got a clue that we're going to move forward after these reflections here on family prayer to the discussion of culture. So let's start with family evangelization. Vicki, why don't you start us off?
Family evangelization is aimed at coming to a clearer knowledge and fuller acceptance of God's love for us, not as isolated individuals, but in the context of our everyday lives. That is, in the pivotal relationships that shape our identity and purpose. Why do we need to get in touch with God's love? The deep-seated ills in society, the drugs, violence, broken homes, promiscuity, narcissism, and so forth, should give us a clue. These evils exist only in the absence of love, and selfless love is unattainable in the absence of God.
Oh boy, that is a big mouthful, you know? First of all, just to understand, this is about culture now already. They said we're going to talk about culture. But culture is created by a plurality, and it needs a place to happen. And it happens in the home when you understand these relationships. See, like if you go to a shrink, a psychologist, they're gonna look at you mostly in terms of, addictions, compulsions, obsessions, fixations, complexes, and all those things. They're all ego drives, and they're all about you. But they don't get into the whole idea of relationship. But in a Christian, if you went to a spiritual director, the first thing you're going to talk about is how are you constituted to be the person you are? By your relationships, by how you relate to others. That's how you become the person you are. If you relate to them, in a dominant way or in a selfish way or whatever, you become that in the process of this relationship. And what he's talking about here in this family is that's where that actually takes place, that you create a culture in a family, whether you're aware of it or not. And that why these other things can come in, the drugs and the violence and promiscuity and all this stuff, they come in the absence of love. If you have love and reverence for one another, that stuff doesn't even come up. It's like right. Paul says somewhere, he said, don't let him be mentioned among you. But here then, see, these evils exist only in the absence of love. And selfless love, that's another big mouthful here. Selfless love is unattainable in the absence of God. Now, what would that mean? Selfless love is unattainable in the absence of God. See, you can't really get beyond yourself unless you turn to God. In other words, when they say, when you're looking to talk about conversion, it's not just turning away from sin, it's turning away from self. But you can't turn away from self without turning to God. Because who else are you going to turn to, So that's what that sentence means. But that's a one big paragraph, I'll tell you. But let me do the next one. We'll see where we go from here. Family is important because, as noted by the Second Vatican Council, it is a school of deeper humanity. It is where we learn how to be human. If God is not present within the family, that deeper experience of who we are will not take place. Made in the image and likeness of God, so that we might be like God, as mere mortals. That destiny is quite beyond our reach. We need God's help, offered in the form of grace, which is God's love at work within us. Short of attaining the preordained purpose for our being, which is to live in God's love, we will fail to find fulfillment, heartfelt happiness, and inner peace. See, I guess the way to say this, to start off, is like, if you don't have meaning in your life, suppose you don't have meaning in your life, can you have happiness? No. You have to have meaning in order to, see, happiness doesn't come, you can't say, I'm going to be happy. You have some reason to be happy. Right. And the reason you have to be happy is that you have suddenly found meaning.
Right.
And that's not an act of selfishness to find meaning. It's what you're simply made to do. And you find meaning mostly in acts of love. That's where you find mostly. And so, if you're going to look for meaning and happiness, well, hey, you got to make sure that what you're doing is that you're doing things that give you meaning, and that they're usually to get beyond yourself, to get beyond your own selfish needs. And I think that we'll probably somewhere along the line here talk about Chevalier's statement, what his first principle was. I may have mentioned this, but his first principle was this: the most urgent or important thing that you can do is to learn to believe, if you are to find meaning and happiness here on earth, is to learn to believe in God's love for you and to allow that love to transform your life. So to find meaning and happiness here on earth, what do you have to do? You have to learn to believe in God's love for you, that God actually loves you, and therefore, hey, if God loves me, wow. And then that goes to that old saying that you say, the way you feel about others depends entirely, 98% how you feel about yourself. So if you feel pretty good about yourself, you're going to feel pretty good about others. But this is good. Where he starts, the family is important. It's the school of deeper humanity, where we really what it really means to be human. And if God is not present within the family, you're not going to have that school at work. You have to have God really there. So where are we here? Pat, why don't you take that next one?
This is a brief summary of our reflections to date on family evangelization. We also noted that the only way to bring gospel values into the experience of family is to want to do so in practical ways. The most important of which is family prayer, an alternative preferably to see one's children fall into drug abuse, promiscuity, self-alienation, and other traits of the Cain personality that are common to those who turn a deaf ear to God's call to worship.
I guess the only comment I would make, with the Cain personality is that Cain had a certain personality. If you read, there again, like we were talking before about Scripture being pretty plain, right. You don't have to be a psychologist to know that Cain was an angry person, and that he was a jealous person, and that he didn't care very much about worshiping God, because he put a couple of rotten vegetables on a stone and said, "There, God, that's yours," But Abel, he picked the best out of his herd, and he worshiped God. He loved God. And Cain personality, what? Angry, jealous, don't feel good about yourself, strike out at other people, all that stuff. That's a Cain personality, and the world is full of it today, because Cain did not worship God, and therefore he became a murderer. Simple. You want to say, what happened to Cain? Well, what happened to him? He didn't worship God. That's what happened to him. He ended up all by his own self. I think that's anything else there? I guess they're really saying that if you don't enter into prayer, then what's going to happen? You're going to lose your children into some other form of idolatry or self-worship or whatever. Comment to...
the final paragraph wraps it up nice.
Okay, final paragraph. Vicki, do that final paragraph, please.
We can come to a more compelling awareness of the importance of a Christian environment in the home as we acquire a realistic view of how culture shapes the individual and society, thus determining the fortunes of humanity as a whole. Yet, as we look at culture in the weeks ahead, keep in mind that this is not enough. A sane person in a civilized society should view any attack on family with alarm. In the final analysis, only God's love is strong enough to move us to act.
Okay. I guess what he's saying, yes, the culture that's what really shapes the future of humanity. But you just can't say, well, we're going to let culture do it. You have to keep God in the picture. And where he says, a sane person in a civilized society should view any attack on family with alarm. You don't have to think just about religion, but any attack on family is going to undo society, because that's really where you learn how to be a human being. And if there's no home, if there's no place for culture to happen, well, then we're lost. And I think that's where we're at. So many families are broken that they don't have, I don't know where I came across this, but the statement was made that you cannot model masculinity without femininity in the picture. You can't show that I'm a man without having a woman that you're going to relate to in the concept, or to bring that across. Nor can you model being a woman without the presence of a man. So now you say, wait a minute, I want to have a single parent, like a mother, She has to model masculinity. She can't model masculinity. But the trouble is she can't even model femininity in the absence of a man. It's in the, the complementarity, the complementary relationship is what actually makes the man and makes the woman a woman. Not just you want to be a woman just by yourself, all of a sudden or be a man all by yourself, what happens? You're not being a man, you're being some other kind of a crazy creature. But to be a man, you must enter into the proper kind of relationships with women. Because that's why God made a male and female, and that's the way it is. I think we'll get to this sometime else. But anyhow, meanwhile, thanks for listening. Take care and God bless. We'll see you soon. Bye.